Why did this film break the record for the longest standing ovation at nearly 24 minutes? And who is it about? The film, The Voice of Hind Rajab, premiered at the Venice Film Festival on Wednesday. It tells the story of Hind Rajab, the 5-year-old Palestinian child who became a symbol of Israel's atrocities in Gaza. Her story began on January 29, 2024, when Israel's military told residents of Gaza City to evacuate immediately. So Hind's family got in a car and began to drive north. But a few hundred meters later, they stopped. Hind's 15-year-old cousin Leanne called her uncle to tell him they were surrounded and Israel's army had opened fire on the car, killing everyone inside apart from her and Hind. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society, or PRCS, made contact with Leanne that afternoon.
الو مرحبا.
ايوه بتدخل علينا الدبابه جنبك.
انتم متخبيين؟
في السياره احنا جنبينا الدبابه.
انتم جوا السياره؟ الو الو
62 gunshots could be heard over just 6 seconds as Leanne screamed for her life and the call ended in just under a minute. The PRCS called back immediately and Hind picked up.
ميتين؟ وهم هلا معك بالسيارة؟ هي جاية عليكي من قدام السيارة الدبابة؟ قريب كتير؟ كتير وعم تمشي؟ طيب ما بدنا نخاف؟ خليكي معي. أنا معك يا عمري.
The Red Crescent got permission from Israel's defense ministry to send an ambulance to try rescue Hind, but as the ambulance turned onto Hind Street, explosions were heard and the line dropped. The paramedics were no longer responding. Hind was still on the call, alone and surrounded by the dead bodies of her family members. It was beginning to get dark. The Red Crescent had gotten her mother on the phone. They all did what they could to get her to keep talking, but she began to fall silent for long periods of time. When they asked why she wasn't speaking, she said, "Every time I talk, blood comes out of my mouth and makes my clothes dirty, and I don't want my mum to have to clean it." They told her to stay in the car where they could find her, and that if night comes and they still haven't arrived, she should close her eyes so she doesn't see the tanks.
حبيبتي والله لو بإيدي رأجيكي.
The call broke off shortly after. They tried to call again and again, but no one answered. No one could reach the area for nearly 2 weeks. Once they did, they saw the Red Crescent ambulance that had come to try rescue her was a burned-out shell, with almost nothing remaining of the paramedics' bodies. Further up the street, the door and parts of the hood from Hind's car had been torn off. The windows were blown out and it was covered in bullet holes. A total of 335 bullets had been fired at the car. The body of Hind's uncle was still dangling from the driver's seat. The car smelled of decomposing corpses from the dead bodies of the 5 children piled together in the back seat. The family was buried together outside Al-Shifa Hospital, and their murder became a rallying cry for activists around the world. Students raised awareness about Hind on university campuses worldwide, and the Hind Rajab Foundation was set up to prosecute Israeli soldiers accused of war crimes internationally. When Tunisian filmmaker Kaouther Ben Hania heard the audio recording of Hind, she decided to drop everything and make the film, saying, "I cannot accept a world where a child calls for help and no one comes." She got the full 70-minute audio from the Red Crescent and testimonies from Hind's mother and others who had been over the phone, reconstructing the story. Once it was underway, names like Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix, Rooney Mara, Jonathan Glazer, and Alfonso Cuarón signed on as executive producers. It was then nominated for the Golden Lion, the highest prize given to films at the Venice Film Festival, to mark important contributions to cinema. In a time where people are constantly exposed to short bursts of violence and suffering online, Ben Hania focused on the retelling of violence through Hind's voice rather than video. In this way, she said, cinema can preserve a memory and cinema can resist amnesia. The movie, a simple story about a child being trapped alone and no one coming to rescue her, may do exactly that.